Welcome everyone to this week's version of the Wellness Shot, a unique version. My name is Dr. David Orman, and when you think of music, you can hear a song and it instantly takes you back to that time period, whether it be your childhood, whether it be 10 years ago, etc. If you were around in the 1980s, there was a particular song, or more so, a particular drum fill that is instantly associated with that time period of the 80s. It is arguably the most famous drum fill in all of rock or pop music, even to this day. It is fairly simple to play. It was used in movies, it was used in beer commercials. Let me play it for you. Tell me you don't remember it instantly. Ready? I added the cymbals. But it was done by a drummer named Phil Collins. And Phil Collins at that time, and even in the 90s and 2000s, was everywhere. He was on the radio, he was on MTV, he was on Miami Vice, and if you don't know what those are, you missed a fantastic time period. Phil Collins was one of the most creative people on the planet, both as a writer, a singer, and of course his drumming was outstanding. Anybody who studies the drums, he is one of the people that you go to. And that particular fill, that's the first one you learn, because it's, like I said, relatively easy, but it's just so cool. Phil Collins of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s was one person. The Phil Collins today is suffering tremendously. He has some major issues, and I really wish that he would have contacted me prior to getting the treatment that he did. Let me get over to my desk and I'll explain that.
Well, that was fun. There was a point in my life not that long ago where I said, I want to do four things in particular. I want to do a lot more, but these four, and just to see what it's like. So I wanted to write a book, and I did, called Dark and Light. And it turns out I didn't care for writing books. I rather write shorter things, so that was a lesson. The book was very enjoyable to do, though. Uh, but only once. I would not do it again. I wanted to learn a language, which I'm currently doing. Я говорю не очень хорошо по-русски, but I am learning. It's Russian. One of the martial arts that I train in is Russian, and my fantastic teacher, although he speaks English, Russian is a native tongue, so I want to kind of a gift. I wanted to create courses, which I ended up loving. I thought I would like, but I ended up loving. And the two that I've created so far is the Bagua course and Sacred Sounds, both of which gone over very well. But I'm going to be doing a whole lot more in the future. And then learning an instrument. And that has turned out to be so much fun. I took about 6 months worth of lessons, and though I don't take it seriously, it's not like I practice, 5 hours a day, but it's something very enjoyable. Just learning to move around the kit, coordination, etc. And for future videos, I'm going to do a couple of videos, one on language learning and one on playing an instrument, and how they reduce the incidences of things such as dementia and Alzheimer's and other types of neurological issues. But that's for another time. Today it's all about Phil. So I had read about Phil Collins, and essentially what, at least the information that I read, somewhere around 2007, 2008, he had injured his neck, basically herniated a disc, and got surgery on it, which I thought was strange. But again, this is probably eighth-hand information and know this much. But the surgery apparently did not go over well, and he subsequently received a few more surgeries. The end of the day, he is wheelchair bound for the most part, has a nurse with him, has drop foot, carpal tunnel syndrome in both wrists, and basically is unfortunately a shell of the person that he was. And though details are missing, in a lot of situations like that, surgery is not the way to go. In some instances it is, but in a lot of instances it's not. If you look at the success rate for those types of surgery, they vary dramatically. There was one study that I saw, it said 50 to 80%, another 75 to 80%, another 10 to 40%. So you're looking at 10 to as much as 80%. So that's a huge difference. Why? There's a good question. I think my answer would be because everybody's chemistry is so different and there's so much complexity with nerves in that particular area that you just don't know. There's so many risks involved. You have, in fact, there's a term called failed back syndrome, which, as you would imagine, some of what Phil Collins and many others are suffering from. You have infection, you have nerve injury, you have scar tissue formation, you have blood clots, and there are probably 6 or 7 others that I haven't even thought of. So it is a very risky type of surgery. Again, for some people, it's a necessity. Some people have had great luck with it, and others not so much. For those who are on the fence in terms of, yeah, surgery may help, but there are other things that can be done. Here are some of the other things that can be done. Number one is specific types of physical activity, and the activity is specific spinal stabilization exercises, and working with a physical therapist in particular who specializes in that would be a fantastic thing. Where I had a clinic once, there were physical therapists and they did specialize in that and made a huge difference. There's a muscle called the psoas. So if you think of the spine here, the psoas are 2 rope-like muscles that go on either side of the spine. They're supposed to be quite strong. They look as thick as a rope. And when you can strengthen and stretch those, makes a gigantic difference. There are also types of twisting, gentle twisting exercises. And again, that's where the Bagua, Tai Chi, Qigong, all that stuff comes into play. Very, very, very excellent. You want to think cat-like movements where they're elongated and soft and steady, but there's an element of exertion in it as well, but not overexertion. And once there's a level of mobility, that's when you want to add strength and weight-bearing exercise. Maybe, arguably, the number one thing to prevent this type of issue is weight-bearing exercise, but done in a specific way. Lift something heavy from the ground over your head is short and simple. I mean, you could, out of that movement, there could be, 100 different exercises. I literally mean 100 different exercises. But the short and sweet of it is lifting something heavy or heavier that's down, up. Um, I did an article once on 3 5s, which means 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 exercises of 3 to 5 repetitions, 3 to 5 minute rest in between, 3 to 5 days a week. That is one of the best, if not the best protocol for prevention. The other aspect of prevention is any type of anti-inflammatory diet, and that includes all your dark green leafy vegetables, making sure you're hydrated, basically the things that you already know but may or may not be doing. The foods which are exceptional are all of your aside from the dark green leafy vegetables, all of your islandy type fruits, papaya, mango, guava, pineapple is the star of the show. And the reason is it contains an enzyme called bromelain, which helps to flush out all that excess heat and all that inflammation from the system. So if you are doing weight-bearing exercise, if you're doing movements, the slow movements like Bagua or, Qigong, diet's pretty, 80% great. The other things that you can add, there is a substance called Ligaplex Roman numeral 2, Ligaplex Roman numeral 2, which is pinpoint specific for strengthening tendons, ligaments, sinews, etc. It also has a great positive effect on discs themselves, both as prevention as well as treatment. And then last but not least, the star of the show. So let me back up a little bit. You may have heard of Doctors Without Borders or Dentists Without Borders, and these are the wonderful people who volunteer to go to different countries or different areas where they don't have either any or very limited health or dental care. And there was an interesting story that of the Dentists Without Borders went to, I don't remember the name of the country, but they were shocked at the disaster of oral care, of dental care, or lack thereof. People would have 16, 17, 18 cavities, and they were not prepared. They did not have the equipment, they did not have the substances which would help them. So they basically said, you know what? We will be back, in 6 weeks or something like that with the proper amount. It was 3 months, I'm sorry, 3 months with the proper equipment. Hang on. In the meantime, we are going to leave this substance with you. Take it. We think it'll help, but we'll be back in 3 months. So they came back in 3 months and were shocked at how many of the cavities were in fact dramatically improved or gone. And the substance is vitamin K2. K as in Kentucky, number 2. And vitamin K2 basically takes the minerals in our body. So if you think of a rock, the moss that's on the rock, most of the time when people take things like calcium, it basically forms on top of the bone. But vitamin K2 helps pull minerals inside the bone, thus making it very hard and very, very strong, including the teeth. So K2 is exceptional. And if you take it with vitamin D3, as well as manganese. So that holy trinity, so to speak, combination. K2, D as in David, 3, and then manganese, Manganese. Manganese is a trace mineral that basically helps to harden the bones and the skeletal structure of the body. When you take those substances, it is a wonderful prevention, but it is also a wonderful treatment. And people like, people you may know, you may be one of them, but people will benefit from that. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next week. Thank you.